Hey guys, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today's video is the first Warlock strand video, and it took a little more time than I wanted to just because I wanted to get everything right because I saw the potential that this build truly had. Some quick highlights of the build include almost 90% damage resistance, the ability to shut down basically any champion, Hive Guardian, or Tormentor in all levels of content, as well as having some of the best ad clear possible, in my opinion, in the entire game. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this one today, as well as any recommendations for future videos. Up next, I'm already working on Strand Hunter, so stay tuned for that. Starting off the subclass, I'm using a Healing Rift. You can use the Empowering Rift if you want to. I'm just mainly using Healing because Strand doesn't have a lot of access to intrinsic healing effects, but you can use either. As far as the grenade goes, I'm using the Shackle Grenade, and this is very important because we're not actually going to be using our grenade, we're just going to be consuming it. This is granted to us by our first aspect, Mind Spun Invocation, and whenever we consume our Shackle Grenade, we have Weaver's Trance for 25 seconds. This ability basically means that anytime that you get a final blow, whether that's with a weapon, your abilities, or your super, it generates a suspending detonation around that final blow target, meaning that nearby enemies are then suspended. And for those who don't know, suspending is one of the best effects in the entire game, because basically any champion that's hit by it, Tormentors, Hive Guardians, any major or minor enemy, is basically unable to do anything as long as they're suspended, meaning that you can just shoot at them with zero repercussions. And of course, the other aspect is Weaver's Call, which just allows our rift to spawn in 3 thread links upon cast. For fragments, I'm using Thread of Continuity, and this will increase the duration of suspend and unraveling effects. Also Sever if you want to build that into this build. Thread of Rebirth, which allows Strand Weapon Final Blows to have a chance of creating a threadling, and we're going to stack this on top of our intrinsic generation of threadlings, as well as Hatchling, which is a great perk on any Strand weapon. Thread of Generation, which anytime we deal damage to any target, it generates grenade energy for us, and this helps build back our shackle charge that we can then immediately consume to keep Weaver's Trance going. And then finally I have Thread of Warding, which whenever we pick up an overpower, it grants us Woven Mail. And for those that don't know, Woven Mail is a 50 to 60% damage reduction. If you wanted to, you could also replace Thread of Continuity with Thread of Isolation, and this allows a Severing Burst to emit from a target after hitting a few precision hits. It pairs greatly with Hatchling, as well as some other effects that Strand actually incorporates with it. However, I'm personally not speccing into Sever because I feel that the damage resistance with this build is already insane. You could totally use it if you want to, though. Starting off on the seasonal artifact mods, the ones that we're mainly taking advantage of are Untangler, and anytime we destroy a Tangle by a Strand weapon, it basically creates a suspending explosion. Any enemy hit by it is then suspended. Volatile Flow grants volatile rounds to any of our void weapons whenever we pick up an Orb of Power. Bricks from Beyond gives those void weapons a chance to generate heavy ammo for us and our fire team anytime we defeat a powerful combatant with them. And then we have Allied Unraveling, which anytime we have rapid final blows with our Strand weapon, enemies become unraveled, and unraveling enemies that take damage will spread an AoE effect to nearby targets. Then we have Threaded Blast, which increases the quality of life of Untangler by creating a larger and more damaging explosion, which again can still suspend enemies on hit. For the armor mods, the main ones that we're looking for are the Void Strand Dual Siphon, and this is also unlocked through the artifact. This allows any Void Weapon Final Blows and Strand Weapon Final Blows to generate Orbs of Power. You can definitely double down on this if you want to. And I'm also rocking Heavy Ammo Finder just to support our heavy weapon, which does work hand in hand with Bricks from Beyond, meaning that we always have a constant supply of heavy ammo. If you're playing with a fire team, you can also rock a Heavy Ammo Scout just to share that heavy ammo twice over. For gauntlets, I'm using 2 Void Loaders to support our heavy weapon. If you want to use a Strand heavy weapon instead, you can always swap those out. Keep in mind though that loaders are still currently bugged in Destiny 2. Whenever you load into an activity or die, you have to reapply the mods in order to have the effects granted to them. They're currently working on a patch for this though, so hopefully it's fixed soon. The other mod I'm using is Shield Break Charge, and this allows us to get 1 stack of armor charge anytime we match a combatant shield and break it. And with Two-Tailed Fox plus Strand, we can basically break any shield in the game with a matching type. For chest piece, you can really use whatever you want. You can spec into full resist mods if you want to, greatly enhancing the resistance effect of the build, or you can spec into reserves to support your heavy weapon. Either is really up to you. Going over our new exotic legs real quick are the Swarmers. These are the new exotic legs for Warlock. This allows threadlings to spawn from Tangle detonations, and any threadlings that deal damage to enemies also unravel them. This of course can then stack with Allied Unraveling, and having a weapon with Hatchling on it makes this perk even better because it allows an effective chain of threadlings to constantly spawn. And these threadlings can then unravel enemies on hit, which deals damage in an AoE effect. And anytime that these threadlings then get killed with Weaver's Trance enabled, they also suspend enemies, meaning that you can clear out an entire room of enemies that are densely packed just by getting 1 kill. For the mods to support this, I'm using Absolution, which just increases our ability regen anytime we pick up an Orb of Power, and I'm also using a Strand and Void Weapon Surge. These will last for 10 seconds at base and grant a 10% increase to that specific type of damage. It is worth noting that even if you use 2 different mods such as Strand and Void, they'll still operate off of the same stack of armor charge, meaning that even though you're using 2 Surge mods, it only costs 1 stack of armor charge, not 2. Finally, onto our bond, we have Time Dilation, and this will bring up the 10-second timer for Surge charges up to 15, and we also have Reaper, which just after we use our class ability, our next final weapon blow will spawn an Orb of Power, again contributing to the orb gen that this build has to keep the entire build going. It's also worth noting that if you want to rock stacks on stacks or charged up on your chest or leg piece respectively, this will also enhance the quality of this build dramatically. So from the armor and the mods on them, they support our strand and void weapons to an extreme degree. They allow basically any strand weapon to have infinite unravel and suspending effects, and any threadlings that we spawn from a variety of sources can not only unravel and suspend targets, but create an entire chain that goes and detonates other tangles, spawns more threadlings, unravels and suspends, so on and so forth, which is why any weapon with hatchling works great with this build. In fact, the first weapon I'm recommending is the Cyclonic Roulette. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's my favorite of the strand primary weapons, and while I don't have the best roll on it, hatchling is really all you need, and I 100% mean that. So if you have something like a round robin, for example, you can definitely use that instead. As long as it has hatchling on it, it works perfectly fine. If you wanted to as well, you could also use the new heavy circular logic, which again can roll hatchling on it. Literally any strand weapon with hatchling works great with this build, just keep that in mind. Onto our void weapon, I'm personally using the Hollow Denial, and let me go into a few of the reasons why I'm using it. First of all, trace rifles actually do really well in PvE, and on top of this, Hollow Denial actually rolls with a bunch of really good perks from the season. The first is Lead from Gold, which I've enhanced. Lead from Gold basically grants this weapon ammo upon picking up heavy ammo, and with stacking on top Heavy Ammo Finder and Bricks from Beyond, this weapon can basically self-support itself and our heavy weapon just by getting multi-kills. On top of this, while we pick up Orbs of Power to keep the entire build going and then boost our void and strand weapons, this weapon also gets volatile rounds, which means its ad clear is absolutely insane. We combine this with the fact that volatile will actually proc the unraveling effects that we've previously applied, and any kills with this weapon while Weaver's Trace is active, which is again for 25 seconds, will also suspend nearby targets. This means that this thing is an absolute monster on ad clear. The other reasons I also use this weapon are for Repulsor Brace. The main reason that we're using this is not only for the 45 HP void overshield we get after we get a void debuffed kill, which again comes from volatile rounds, but whenever we have this overshield active, we also have a 50% damage reduction, which is immense for PvE. We're stacking this damage reduction on top of our intrinsic 30% from tier 10 resilience, and we're also stacking it with Woven Mail, which is an approximate 50 to 60% damage resistance. Without even factoring any kind of specific resist mods based on the activity you're doing, this means that we can have an approximate 80% damage resistance at all times. And if we wanted to, we could rock Sever, and then again 2 persist mods based on the activity we're in, and it can go almost to 90% damage resistance, which is absolutely insane, and it really helps Strand in the department of healing because it doesn't have a lot of intrinsic healing behind it, which is again another reason we're rocking our Healing Rift. On top of that, Hollow Denial's origin trait perk Extrovert allows any final blows while we're surrounded by combatants or nightmares to restore health. So all in all, this weapon is a monster on ad clear. It helps with our damage resistance and survivability, and it also heals us. Another void weapon I recommend using is Vexcalibur, which comes from the new exotic mission. In short, it works like any other glaive, but whenever you block damage with its shield, it actually grants you that same void overshield. It also grants you a 20% melee bonus damage while that overshield is active, and any melee kills that you do get will refresh that overshield. While I wouldn't recommend using this weapon for high-end content just because melee builds have a tendency to fall behind, it's still really fun to use and synergizes perfectly with it. Plus, anytime that you do get these melee final blows, it also suspends nearby enemies. And this effect is incredibly fun to play with and makes for easy cleanup kills, and especially melee chains. Finally, onto our heavy weapon, I am recommending Two-Tailed Fox, specifically with the Third Tail Catalyst. The Catalyst grants it a third arc jolting rocket, so in addition to suppressing and now scorching with the solar rocket, the arc rocket can then jolt on hit. This alone has made this weapon incredibly potent, but we're taking it much further. With Two-Tailed Fox, the unraveling effect that our threadlings apply to enemies far away can be spread to other enemies, as well as the suspending effect that occurs on getting a kill with nearby enemies. Plus, with Volatile Flow, the suppressing rocket also deals volatile damage, meaning that this thing can perfectly counter every single champion in the game. On top of that, the suppressing effect works perfectly against Tormentors and Hive Guardians, and again, you can still volatile, unravel, suspend, scorch, and jolt targets. Although it's hard to replicate, this rocket can also generate tangles, and if the timing is right, detonate them at the same time. This means that threadlings can spawn in from getting kills with Two-Tailed Fox potentially, and these threadlings again can go and unravel targets, deal damage, and if they get a kill, suspend enemies nearby that final blow. Two-Tailed Fox is 100% my pick for higher end content. However, really any void heavy or strand heavy works. Special shout out to Circular Logic, which is the new strand LMG that can roll with hatchling. Again, any strand weapon with hatchling is perfect for this build. All in all, there's the build for you guys. Not only can we have a near 90% damage resistance at all times if we want to, but we also have incredible ad clear with our strand weapons, constantly generating threadlings and synergizing perfectly with our subclass, but it also deals perfectly with champions, tormentors, hive guardians, and basically any enemy that's prevalent in high-end content. While the other way you can go with Warlock intrinsically is just focusing on threadling generation and constantly having them on the battlefield, I feel that this is a much better version of it that fits endgame content much better. I took a lot of time developing this build and working out a few initial flaws with it, so let me know what you think of it down below, and again, any recommendations for future builds are greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I greatly appreciate the support on these videos, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, and have a great day.